Hello everybody, my name is Chris and I am one of the co-hosts of CaOverwatch, but as you can see, today I am the only one here talking to you. And that is because our other co-host, Spencer, is up at the cottage for the week, having a good time, doing some stuff, probably playing some cornhole or something up there. So today it's just me and I'm here to recap our Toronto versus Vancouver Battle for Canada Round 3 and the up-and-coming game versus the LA Gladiators. So, first up is Toronto versus Vancouver. What are my overall thoughts? You know what? I'm happy that we got the win. I'm glad we have a 2-2 record now coming into the Countdown Cup. But I won't be lying I would be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed with the 3-2 result. I think that we're winning against Vancouver in most of our matchups, and we are in one of the best metas that we could have right now with the Genji meta with agilities. And even considering how much better agilities is as a top tier Genji versus Dalton, I would have predicted a 3-1 or 3-0. And even with that, we have our other strong players like Logix, who was really playing toe-to-toe against Shockwave the whole time. And, you know, Nevix and Numlocked, which I think are more senior and more leaders than the tank line of the Vancouver. So I was a little disappointed that we went to 3-2 in this series. But you know what I'm here to do? We're here to break it down. We're here to talk about why we thought that happened. So I think one of my big thoughts surrounding this is the difference between Brigitte and between Zenyatta. Obviously, I think Brig is the meta pick, and we could see that Toronto was struggling a lot more against Vancouver when Vancouver was running Brig versus when they were running Zenyatta. We saw it on the first map in Nepal. We were struggling a lot against their Brig. And then they switched off from Brig into Zenyatta, and we won the next two maps. And then we went on to Havana and won that too. And then they switched back to the Brigitte, and they came back with those two sneaky wins before we finally won that map 5. And maybe you're thinking, hey Chris, like this is just a meta. This is obvious that they're going to win. But I don't think it was just the meta. I think it was our lack and our problem with adapting to different situations. So what I mean is that when you have a Zenyatta, which is very, very diveable, very, very easy to kill against a Brigitte, instead of a Brigitte, your Genji isn't being checked. And we actually saw this a lot. I saw a lot of times where agilities would, us going down a pick, getting picked off in a team fight, agilities pulls out his blade and gets a 3-kill, gets a 4-kill. He was very much unchecked in the games that we were winning. But when they put the Brigitte back, suddenly he got checked, and suddenly Toronto would have to play a little bit more cautiously in order to get more value out of the Genji. But we didn't do that. We played a little bit too aggressively in the two maps that we lost, and it took us until map 5 to really adjust to the new Brigitte, or to the Brigitte in the Vancouver composition, and get some value and finally get the win. So I think their comp really gave us some trouble in those two losses that we had. Another really big thing that comes to mind when I think about the losses we had in the whole game and the whole series we had as a total was how we were really in control. When I thought we won because we played better than them. Not because they are playing any better than us, not because they are controlling or they are messing up or making mistakes. It's because we were playing well. And when we lost, it was because they're playing bad. I think that Vancouver played quite consistently throughout the majority of the series. But what won them the two maps was the fact that we had some pretty atrocious play on defense. Suffice to say, I think everybody will agree with me. Capping point to Nimbani is probably one of the easiest points to cap. And unfortunately, we didn't cap it. And I think that comes down to communication, and apart from the lack of ability to adapt to new situations with the input of Brigida instead of Zenyatta. I think there's also some communications issues. And I agree. I think a great case study to evaluate this is through Nevix. I think Nevix had one of the best games he's had on date against Vancouver. His hyperspheres are on point, and his accretions were on point, his flux were on point. I think the best situation when it's easy to tell he was playing well was when in map 5 he literally rocked. I think it was Karkar on Nevik on Sigma. He rocked the Sigma out of his flux through a window, split-second decision, which probably won us that map. We on CaOverwatch have never ever doubted Nevix's mechanical ability and decision making. I think where the issues come is with communication and strategization. And with the addition of Rokey, which I'll get to in a little bit as well, to our roster during this series, I think that the communication fell through a little bit, and the coordination and the aggressive playstyle that I want to see more from Toronto didn't come through, and that's why we did so poorly on those 2 maps. In addition to the fact that we were playing, or at least Agilities was playing a little bit too aggressively on the Genji against the Brigida. So it was clear that their Brig was giving us trouble. Once again, point out, Nevix had an amazing game. He had a great game. We got to shout out people when they play well, especially Nevix, who, like I said, hasn't been a shining light in the past. He played amazingly. But really, another thing that comes up in mind is Rokey. Why was Rokey on instead of Kariv? In my mind, well, the chatter on Instagram, on Twitter, is that Kariv isn't as good as Baptiste as Rokey. People were like saying, Rokey's Baptiste is a lot better than Kariv's. And not that I'm saying Rokey played poorly in this series. I'd say that he played decently, but I don't think he's better than Kariv. Now, it's a little bit hard to say because really we've only seen Rokey play once or twice. And the last time he played on Baptiste, he got dummied against a really good team. But I still think that Kariv's better, and I think you can tell by immortality field usage. Kariv, I think that he could get better with some other things, but his immortality usage, in my mind, is a little bit better than Rokey's. Although I will say that on map 1 Nepal, Rokey had a sick preemptive immortality where he threw out their immortality as Agilities was blading, and Agilities got knocked down to that I think 10% health mark and was saved by the immortality and went on to get a 3k. And that is a good example actually of a time when he did well. But I think generally he used the immortality a little bit too soon and was playing a little bit frantically in that sense. So I still think that Kariv is the better Baptiste and Rokey. But what do I know? We just saw one thing. My guess is that they put Rokey on simply because he was probably playing better in the scrims this week leading up to this game. Or Toronto was confident enough to think that they could still win without Kariv. So they decided to give Rokey some reps. Put him on and give him some more reps. So that was kind of my thoughts on Rokey and his immortality fields. Now, just in terms of the maps, I think some of my favorite moments from map 1 was once again the aggressive play by Rokey in his immortality field. That was amazing. Map 2, I think one of the most amazing points that I saw in this map was the absolute shutdown of Dalton. He was being absolutely lapped by Agilities. He was being killed pretty easily, and that's what I really liked about it. Havana, I think it's Havana. Yes, Havana, map 2. But another thing that I want to focus on map 2 is the very end, when I feel like we almost should have lost there. We kind of clutched it out, but we got really close to losing. We, I think, picked Shockwave. And what I think should happen after we pick Shockwave is I think we should immediately jumped on the rest of the team and eliminated them. But we kind of almost let Shockwave come back into the fight, and then they got 2 picks on us, and then we managed to pull back and win that scenario, which was a very, very clutch moment. But at the same time, I was confused as to the decision-making of the team at that point. Which actually reminds me of another point that I wanted to make, which I think was an issue in the past and is an issue in the future, and has been a big issue in this game. And that's us losing team fights after we get the first pick. So it just really confuses me. It really confuses me, this whole roster, because, like, what's wrong? You know, we've had a lot of team fights where we get the first pick on a main support or DPS like Shockwave or Dalton, and we proceeded to lose the game or lose a team fight after that. And I'm sitting here in my head, I'm thinking, you know, I'm trying to break this down. Like, why are we losing? Looking at our matchups, we have, you know, Genji, our Genji player, Agilities, who is miles better than Dalton. We have Logix, who is, I thought, did better than Shockwave on this match, on this series, but he, at a minimum, was going toe-to-toe. And then we have Cruz and Rokey, or we have Numlocked and Nevix. And I think Nevix played great. He had an amazing game, and Numlocked didn't play bad himself. So I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, what's the issue of this team? Why are we not pulling these things out? Why are we not being able to get these wins in these team fights, even after we get these first pick? And once again, I said this a little bit earlier, a couple minutes ago, but I think I want to say again, I really do think it's team coordination. I think it's the lack of being able to coordinate on the fly. I think I've said this before, and I think that one of Toronto's strong points is coming up with pre-planned set plays and compositions that they know will comp and beat other teams. I think that's why we got 4th place in Summer Showdown. But I don't think they're that good at coming up with strategies or communicating on the fly. I think that's where the key issue lies with this team. It's in the fact that when you're getting into a very, very scrambly, very, very weird fight where maybe you've got a first pick or two and maybe they've got another pick and everybody's starting to fight each other, I think that's probably where the communication breaks down. And it was a lot harder to see in this series. It was much easier to see in this series because we had Rokey. And even though Kariv, I don't think is the main communicator on our starting roster, I think he does play a role as a central piece, as a really, really good player in the support line. And I think that communication showed in this matchup. So what's really unfortunate about the 3-2 is that we're not going to be 6th anymore. We're going to be 9th, and we're picked by LA Gladiators. If we won 3-0 or we won 3-1, I believe we would have gone 6th and been able to have a second pick, which has allowed us to finally dictate what we want to play. But we're here, got picked by LA Gladiators, and we are playing them next week. So what do I think about LA Gladiators? I think, funnily enough, they're quite a beatable team. I was very happy that they picked us out of most other teams. But it's still tough to say whether or not we will win. So I think specifically for the LA Gladiators, I think they were a lot better when Monkey and Ryan and Zarya were more meta and Orisa and Sigma were out of the picture. I think OGE and Mira shine on those characters. And I think in general, their tank line is one of the most threatening parts of their team. But with Sigma and Orisa being a little more meta in this day and age, I think we actually stand a chance. I think that Orisa is kind of such a, and no offense to Numlock or anything, it's such a bot character that doesn't require a hell of a lot of work that it shrinks the perceived skill gap of two different players. Well, another way of saying it is that the skill ceiling is a little bit lower. So regardless of whether or not Numlocked is better than their tank line, even if he isn't, and even if he doesn't play as well, It's okay. And we know that Nevix is a pretty good Sigma player, and he has times to shine like he did today. So I think that they're definitely beatable. But we're going to be keeping an eye on whether or not Rokey is going to be starting during the Countdown Cup, and whether or not this meta stays meta. So what are my predictions for this up-and-coming game? I'm thinking that it's going to be 3-2 for Toronto Defiants. I have high hopes for this team. You know us. We're a little bit too high sometimes on Toronto Defiant, but that's okay. That's what you're supposed to do. That's how you keep that energy flowing, right? So I'm thinking it's going to be a 3-2, and it's going to be a really tough 3-2. And I almost think that we're going to go 1-1 on map 5, and then it'll come down to the last map. Probably 100%, something like that. It's going to be a close match, but I think we can get through it. I think we can win this, and I think that we can hopefully make another top 4 performance. So, thank you guys for listening in today. I really appreciate it. If you like our content, feel free to give us a like, subscribe, hit that bell icon if you want to as well. If you didn't like our comment, also give us a thumb down and comment. Tell us why you didn't like what we were saying. We're always open to discussion, and we're always looking to have a discussion about meta and Toronto Defiant. So with that, thank you and enjoy.